What is going on, everybody? We are a few short days removed from a couple of big updates for Microsoft's Surface Duo and Surface Duo 2, the July 6th updates to be specific. And in this video, we're going to talk about what the aftermath of these updates is, what you guys think about them in terms of some polling of the general experience of these two devices. Now, after these updates, we're going to talk about what was changed in them and really do a bit of a deep dive into the night mode camera on Surface Duo 2, because I think that's kind of the big change out of both of these updates. But first, let's start off talking about the original Surface Duo, and let's do so by looking at the rather brief changelog. I've said this a million times, but we know what this is. This is a security update, right, which keeps your device safe and secure. I know that this gets a bit of a bad reputation when you see this. Maybe sometimes it's just this, and people go, oh, I wanted features, I wanted bug fixes. Well, that's true. We all want features and bug fixes, and we want more. We're greedy people, you know, we always want more. And in the early days of Surface Duo, when it was a buggy nightmare of a mess to use, we could really bang our drum on that and say we really should be getting more bug fixes than this. We should not be getting just security patches. But now it's not too big of a deal because the device is in a pretty solid place, as you'll see via the polling here momentarily. But again, security update is there. Your device is safe and secure, and it is getting these updates on a regular basis, which is great. And then the second thing is improves device stability. Now, that really doesn't tell you a whole heck of a lot. What does that mean specifically? We don't know. This update was actually quite a bit smaller than last month's update. I really don't think there was a ton in this one. This is probably just a bit of small bug fixes, little things here and there as we do prep for Android 12L coming in the fall. I mentioned last update that I had some knowledge from a developer that we had some things being altered in preparation for Android 12L. Perhaps there's a little bit more of that in there, although I don't know that for sure. I've not spoken to anyone about this one on this go around. But let's look at the polling and see what you guys think, because ultimately that's really important. And I said rate the overall experience of using Surface Duo 1 after the July update, 5 being flawless, 1 being unusably bad. Only 88 votes right now because I think it got buried. I posted Duo 1 and Duo 2 at the same time, so I think Duo 1 got buried a little bit. But I think if we got more votes, it's probably going to stay relatively the same, because this has been the result consistently for the last few times I've done this. Most people are in the 4 range. They're happy to say it's not flawless. Very few phones are flawless, but it's pretty doggone good. And there are a couple of people, sadly, who are having a pretty bad time with their Surface Duo, and I'm sorry that is happening to you. Maybe try a factory reset. If you got a warranty, try that out, because clearly most of us are not having that kind of experience. But it is a bummer that some people are still struggling so much. There are still bugs that are present as we look at some of these. Some people are saying their device seems a little bit buggier. I've seen people talk about the double tap to switch, the black screen glitch still happening, maybe happening with more frequency. But again, the majority of us seem to be having a pretty good time. Surface Duo really seems to be, for most of us, in a really solid place. And if you see it on sale for $400 or less, in that range, it's a pretty good buy right now. But now let's switch gears and talk about Surface Duo 2, because it also got an update, and its update is probably a little bit more interesting, a little bit more impactful. So looking at the changelog here, we do have our security update, of course. We also have improves device stability, whatever that might mean. We have improves system performance, whatever it is that means. These are both kind of vague. Does the device feel more performant? Does it feel smoother? Like there are less bugs? I don't know if that's the case. I've actually had a couple of kind of odd bugs since this update. I'm not sure if they introduced them, if they're coincidental. I don't know. The first one I experienced was this. I'm on my web browser. I'm browsing around on my web browser, as one is wont to do. And suddenly everything went away except for a wallpaper. Just the wallpaper is visible to me. It thinks about it for about 2 seconds, and then my launcher reloads. I hit the web browser again, and I carry on as if nothing had happened. Kind of odd. It was like Microsoft Launcher crashed or something, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but that is something I have seen. This morning, I saw a different bug. So I'm using my phone, and my brightness just cranks all the way up, right? So I pull down the notification shade, I go to turn it down, and it turns down. As soon as I let off, that little slider, it goes all the way back to full brightness again. I go into my settings, I toggle adaptive brightness to try all sorts of different things, and that does not fix it. So I reboot and everything was just fine. Now, another thing I've talked about kind of briefly in another video is the fact that Duo and Duo 2 both have this tendency after maybe 3 or 4 days to sort of bog down and just kind of get really laggy and slow, and apps want to lock up. And you can clear your open apps and do things like that, clear your RAM with an application, and that kind of like staves it off. But it feels like once it starts, the only way to really fix it is to reboot, and then you've got like 3 or 4 days before it happens again. Is that gone? So far, so good. I was into the range where that might start happening, but then I had to reboot because of my brightness. So is it really gone, or did I just stave it off with a reboot? Time will tell in regard to that. But so far, so good. Now, the rest of this update talks about the cameras. We talk about improvements to face detection and to night mode photography. So let's talk about the face detection first. And this is what we're talking about. If we're on our camera here, if I move out of frame so you can't see me anymore, and I come back out, look how quickly it is detecting that is my face. This looks absolutely ridiculous, but you can see what I'm getting at here. The face detection is working really, really well. The other part are the improvements to night photography, and there are not just improvements in terms of the quality, which I do believe are significantly better, but also to the actual interface, the animation that plays when you are taking a photo in low light. So let's switch around to the other direction, and I will show you what happens. You can see here you can manually toggle night mode on or off, but it comes on automatically as needed. I'm going to take a towel and I'm going to cover my camera there, and you can see that it says 2 seconds there. That is because if I snapped a picture, it would take a 2-second exposure of what I'm looking at. And that actually is dynamic. If I actually make it a little bit darker, you'll see that it says 3 seconds, which is the maximum. And then if I make it a little bit brighter, we can get it to say 1 second, which is the minimum amount of time for night mode. And then of course, if it's in a brighter area, night mode is not needed. But let me show you what it looks like when you actually take a night mode photo. Let's get it to 3 seconds here. So it'll be the longest. When I click this, you'll see a nice new animation that says to hold still as it does fill up. And if it is a shorter duration, like let's say we are at the 2 seconds or 1 second, we'll do it again. It's much quicker. It fills up much quicker along with that. And the result is, I think, quite nice. And now I guess we need to look at some actual photo samples to demonstrate how much this actually has improved or not. Okay, so this is that corner back there, and this is with night mode turned off. This is just how bad it would be with no additional length of exposure, no software. And obviously, it is absolutely horrid. With night mode turned on, this was a full 3 seconds. This is the result. That is a really, really big improvement. And if we zoom in here, you can actually see that a lot of this text actually becomes legible, whereas before, with no additional exposure, you might be hard-pressed to determine that that was text in the first place. So in this instance, night mode has made a really big difference. And while I don't really have a way to show you what night mode looked like before, I can kind of approximate that by showing you an old video. This is what it looked like before in the same corner and similar lighting, although it is a slightly different set of things there, and I can't really zoom in quite the same, but I think you can look at that, and then you can look at this, and you can tell for the most part, I hope, that there is I think a substantial improvement. Now, this one here was a 2-second exposure. You can see how much grain there is, the detail. Look at my fan over there. Now let's go over to the next one, and you can see that it is cleared up a bit. You can actually see the kind of the details there on the fan. It's not incredible, right? But it's definitely a lot better. That grain is massively, massively reduced, in particular in this area here. Look at it there, and without night mode, it's a pretty big improvement. And then now let's look at a 1-second exposure. This is my wife's desk, a lot of grain, 1-second exposure. It cleans it up quite a bit. This thing changes colors, hard to match it up directly, but it's definitely doing a lot, and it's helping out a lot more, I think, than it did before. But I can also compare this to a slightly higher end phone. So let's compare this now to the Galaxy Z Fold. And I think that will demonstrate that while, yes, it is a lot better, it is still not as good as it maybe could be, and maybe not as good as other devices in its general price range. This is Duo 2, right? So let's zoom in a little bit here, get a good look at some of these details. Now let's go to the Z Fold, and you can see, I think obviously this is a much cleaner, much more detailed picture. Going to the desk, same thing. You've kind of gotten a good look at this. And then on the Z Fold, ignore my pile of boxes of things that I look at all the time. But you can tell it's a better image. It just is. In other ways, Duo 2 and Fold kind of trade punches. In night mode, they don't. And then lastly, in the 3-second exposure world, Duo 2, Z Fold 2, Z Fold 2, it's just a better night photographic experience. Now, you may be saying, Shane, why aren't you comparing Gcam? Gcam is what you've always told us to use for night mode. And I would still probably be telling you to do that, but there is a bit of a problem with Gcam in low light. It seems to not work anymore on Surface Duo 2, and I don't know why that is, but let's take a look at it here. Let's go to the Gcam port I had been using, and let's cover it up so that we can properly do a night sight situation here. And let's take the picture, and theoretically, hopefully this does what it has been doing. You'll notice that down here, no picture actually loads in. Once it is done, takes its sweet time, takes the picture, but it doesn't take the picture. Now, even more curiously, if you are set to HDR Plus Enhanced, there is a chance that any photo you take now is not going to be saved like this. If I take one now in decent lighting, I bet it will save. And it did. But if I cover it up and I make it kind of dark, where it's going to try to take a longer exposure, part of HDR Plus Enhanced, I bet it won't. It did not. Nothing changed down here. That is the same picture. Obviously, you would be a photo of nothing, effectively. So for some reason, on these Gcam ports, and I've tried several different ones, anything that requires taking a longer exposure, longer than maybe like a second or two, it will no longer save the picture. I do not know what is going on there. It's something to do with this update, because it happened with this update, but I cannot tell you specifically what is going on there. So you are pretty much now stuck with the stock app. Good news is the stock app is really good. The bad news is Gcam is still better at low light, and we've pretty much lost access to that at this point, which is a bit of a bummer to say the least. Now, the last piece here is that it improves the inking responsiveness in Office apps. And I'm just going to straight up tell you, I don't ink, I don't use these things, so I cannot tell you if it has been improved or not. I can tell you that I've spoken to people who have told me that it feels smoother to them. I spoke to, I think, one person who said they're having bugs when inking now that were not there before, but for the most part, the people I've spoken to have told me inking has less latency, that it feels smoother and more responsive. It's not something I'm going to test and share with you, because while I have a couple of pens, I never do. I would not be able to tell you the difference. I've messed with it. I can't tell if it's improved or not. But what I can tell is, of course, what my poll results were. And on Duo 2, we have 170 votes. It's the same poll as before. 5 is flawless, 1 is unusably bad. 5 got 34% of the vote, and 4 got 39% of the vote. Just like with the original Duo, there are a few people having a middling experience and a few sad people having a really bad experience, but the vast majority of us are up here at the top. I would probably vote a 4. I have a hard time saying any phone is flawless, but I'd say that it's doing very, very well. There are very few weird, bad things it does that gets in my way. Everything seems to be really solid for me. That seems to be the case for most of us. Some comments here about taskbar glitches being reduced. Brandon says he does still have some glitches, like he's having the left screen, the black screen bug, the double tap to switch occasionally happening. This individual, Hans, actually says that the black screen glitch is worse for him in this update. Seems like some people it's always up and down. Some people it's worse. Oh, it's gone. Oh, it's back. It's really hard to predict this stuff. This is the one that said the inking experience was worse. Some freezing and crashing by Jay. So obviously still some stuff to work on, but looking at the poll results, most of us do seem to be having a pretty decent time with our Duos, and I think that's kind of the general story. Same thing as last month. Duo and Duo 2 are in a really good place. Updates are coming out regularly. We're getting new improvements and new features. Night mode is definitely better. The camera experience in general on Duo 2 is a ton better. The laggy, the latency stuff with night mode, like before, if you're in low light, the actual viewfinder itself was really laggy and horrible. That seems to be pretty much gone for me now. So the camera experience has gone from passable to like really good. I've gotten some really good shots as of late on my Duo 2. Like look at this. Look at this picture of my Pleco. Look at the details that it managed to pull out. That's a great picture. I got this really good shot of some clouds the other day when a storm rolled through. I'm like really enjoying Duo 2's camera now. It's almost flawless for me. Night mode it's good enough. I wish I still had Gcam, but it's definitely passable. I'm really happy with Duo. I think we're just at this point, maybe we're gonna get updates basically like this until fall, hopefully when 12L comes out and is a really big deal. I hope for all of us, and it makes a really big difference in some mysterious ways. Guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share your experiences down below. I will see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.